Alright, hey, what's up guys? This is Seibo with Seibo Knows, and I'm going to walk you through the 8 stages of the human psyche. So let's go ahead and jump into this. And so why is this important? Well, this is important for so many reasons. Number one is it gives you a roadmap and a model of how the human psyche develops and unfolds in a very predictable way, not just for you, not just for me, but for all humans. And of course, there will be some outliers of this mental model, but for the most part, virtually everyone that you know or I know will fall into this model. And it's also going to help you identify a lot of own blind spots that you have for yourself, your ego development, your psyche, and you'll also be able to make better sense of people with different belief systems than you and be able to speak with them in a way that they can understand you and you'll be able to better understand them. Now, these are the 8 stages of spiral dynamics, and you'll notice that each stage alternates from focusing on yourself, egocentric, to focusing on the collective. And if you are lucky enough to go through all 8 stages in your life, you'll go through 4 cycles of focusing on yourself while focusing on others. Okay, so let's go over the importance of the stages and what they aren't and what they are. So number one is a higher stage doesn't necessarily mean a better stage. There's just a lot more nuance, a lot more shades of gray. And although I just said there's no good or bad stage, well, each stage does have a positive and shadow side. And one thing that I want to really address here is that for everyone watching and listening, you're gonna automatically want to get to the highest stages possible, but the stages weren't designed to go through them as quickly as possible. They were designed for you to experience each stage as thoroughly as possible so that you build the proper bedrock and foundation to go to the next stage. So let's go ahead and jump into this. And let's start with tier 1, stage 1. So the thing about tier 1 versus tier 2 stages is basically tier 1 stages all believe that if more people believed the same things that they believe, that the world would be a better place. So stage 1 is beige, and you could think about these stages both as an individual and as a society or culture. So stage 1 is defined by being focused on yourself. The main attention is just staying alive, like your biological needs are very important. You're very instinctual, so if you need something, you'll just cry out, and your main focus is on just staying alive. Just staying alive and your biological needs. So we got a few examples of what someone in stage 1, the beige stage, would be. And those would be babies, infants, someone that is senile with dementia, maybe a homeless person that's been homeless for decades that is just barely staying alive. And each of these stages, you'll notice, has a transformational dilemma. And what is a transformational dilemma? Well, it's that after you've been living this way for quite some time, you hit a point where the juice is no longer worth the squeeze, and you could either do more of stage 1 thinking, or you could transform into the next stage. So the stage 1 transformational dilemma is that because you're just focused on your biological needs and survival, you realize that you could actually increase your chances of surviving by finding other people to help you, like maybe your parents. And you also realize that while you could survive on your own, you could thrive with other people. So on the societal level, think about a cave person that finds another cave person. It's like, well, you could definitely maybe take down a larger animal, and it's much more fun being with another cave person than just always worrying about yourself, right? So that's stage 1. Now we go to stage 2, which is the purple stage. And instead of focusing on yourself, you're focused on the collective, about the other people that are helping you survive. And this stage is very much defined by magic and tribalism. So on the individual level, maybe think about young children. On a societal level, think about tribes of 50 to 100, and your identity is no longer yourself, but it's the school of fish, the entire tribe. So think of like a school of fish where there are strength in numbers, and it's not so much about the individual fish, but the whole school, which is protecting its inhabitants. And because your mind is not yet logical and rational, you view the world as a mysterious place. So, maybe if you're watching TV, you think, oh, there might be actually people behind that screen, not realizing it's just pixels that are being displayed on a liquid crystal display. And during stage 2, purple, from a societal level, Voodoo and folk remedies are heavily practiced. The biggest enemy, the biggest threat to your tribe is other tribes. So you start developing a us versus them mentality. And examples of this would be, indigenous tribes, Asiatic, African tribes, Amazonian tribes. If you remember the Na'vi from Avatar, they would be a good example of stage 2. Your children having like a lucky blanket, things that bring them good luck. That's a good example of stage 2 thinking. Now, the transformational dilemma for stage 2 purple is that you realize that while the tribe does offer you protection, you sacrifice a lot of individuality for the sake of the tribe, and you realize that there are some people that work hard and some people that don't, but everything is for the tribe. So why not try to be the strongest in the tribe and just dominate the tribe? So that's the stage 2 purple dilemma, which then launches us into stage 3, the red stage. And what is the red stage? Well, the red stage is defined by egocentric power and self-gratification. So once again, the pendulum swings from the collective. You're back to focusing on yourself. In this stage, think about young children, gang leaders, mafia leaders. You're very impulsive, you're short-sighted, you're gaining all of your spoils and riches by using force. Not only are you using force, but there's no remorse for killing people or hurting people. Morality is based more on power. The more you have, the more powerful you are, the more moral you are versus anything that would be considered right and wrong. So, like I said, think about young children who just want whatever they want at that stage. They're very impulsive, they're short-sighted, they're not looking at the big picture. So this stage is important because this is a stage where you learn to stand up for yourself. But if you stay in this stage too long, well, it's not very enjoyable to be oppressed by a stage red leader. Even as a stage red leader, the transformational dilemma is you realize that you gained all of your power through force. So if someone has more force than you, they could take power from you. And because you've been very impulsive, and you don't look at the big picture, you make a ton of mistakes. It's disastrous for you. It's disastrous for a lot of people around you. And that is the reason why you can't stay in stage red too long. You're sleeping with one eye open. You're nervous about other tribes. You're nervous about being taken over in your tribe, and the people that you rule over don't like red leaders because you're quite oppressive, and then a revolution happens. And this is why we hit another transformational dilemma, which is you realize, man, I just can't keep living this way. There's too many long-term things that I mess up by being impulsive. So you go into stage 4, the blue stage. And in the blue stage, you start focusing on the collective again. It's no longer egocentric, and it's defined by connecting to something greater than yourself, maybe God, or most likely God. And it's also defined by being an absolutist or a conformist. So in this stage, stage blue, where society is able to move beyond just tribal stage of 100 to 150 people, you're all working for the collective again, just like the purple stage. Fitting in is very important. Tradition is very important. If you want to know right from wrong, you just look at the biblical text, the Bible, the Quran. If you disagree, well, just go look at the Quran or the Bible. They'll tell you what's right or wrong. In these societies, there's very rigid hierarchies. There's a very good sense of what's good, what's evil. And that tends to be everything that we do is good. Everything that other people do is evil. So you'll end up sacrificing yourself for your country, your family, for tradition. And very much believe your culture is the only valid culture. So you might be open to other religions, but deep down you believe your religion is better than other people's religions. And if they only, worshiped your God, the world would be a better place. So examples of this would be religious ruled government, the Bible Belt, the Amish, children who very much look up to authority figures. Ned Flanders from The Simpsons would be a good example of stage blue. And you might be wondering, what's wrong with stage blue? It sounds pretty good. You're able to delay your gratification, unlike the red stage, and work towards, the promise of heavenly bliss for eternity, and that's how societies got created, by promising people, the stage 4 this blue stage promise, and all of it is based on, you know, tradition, what's right, what's wrong, following the Bible. As long as we do this, we'll all go to heaven, we'll all live eternally in bliss, right? So the transformational dilemma here is just like in stage purple. You realize, man, so much of my free will is given up for the collective. You know, not only is this collective not really a collective, I could see that there's rules and caste systems that are very oppressive. You know, there's the rich people at the very top, and then there's the rest of us. And the rest of us are doing the majority of the work. And, you know, we all get the equal amounts, but some people do more than others. So maybe you don't want to always work and do things for other people. Maybe you want your hard work to pay off for yourself. And maybe you don't want to sacrifice your physical life for eternal happiness in the afterlife, because no one's ever come back from the afterlife and told you how great it was. So now we go into stage 5, you know, the orange stage. And in stage orange, you know, you stop focusing on the collective, you focus on yourself. It's defined by science, logic, rationality, consumerism, and individual success. So instead of delayed gratification, you know, why don't I work hard now and get all these material items for the life that I know that actually exists, the one on this planet? And, you know, maybe I believe in God, maybe I don't, but I have no proof that God exists. So why don't I do things right now where I benefit right now? So instead of religion being dogmatic, I'll look at science and dogmatically follow science, because science gave us the internet. Science allowed us to go to the moon. Science is awesome. Science is not, you know, people that are believing in the sky daddy. It's rational, it's logical. I believe in science. And because I believe in science, you know, like, power is no longer in the hands of the government. You know, those people that made us pray to all these different gods, and they probably didn't believe in the gods anyways. And what's most important is, you know, power is now in the hands of the business people. You know, the business people control everything. They contribute to the politicians, and then they gain favor that way. And because of that, you know, progress at all costs is what is most important. Why was COVID so scary to America? Was it that people were dying, or was it that the economy wasn't moving forward, right? Stage orange is like very committed to the economy, exponential growth. And stage orange is a little bit like stage red, but instead of using force to acquire what they want, they use hard work and effort, and probably like white collar crime. So like, hey, if I can get away with something, steal a few nickels here, you know, like Wall Street crimes of like, you know, let's round up and like, let's take all the coins, you know, that type of stuff is like stage orange way of acquiring things, you know, beyond just hard work and effort. So some examples of stage orange would be, you know, college graduates, finance, Wall Street, Silicon Valley, United States, CEO, entrepreneurs. You know, conservatives tend to skew blue-orange. You know, and in stage orange, you very much believe like status, material wealth, material items will make you happy. And that's the point of life, to attain all these things and to work hard and to get yours. But the transformational dilemma here is that, well, you get all these things and you realize none of them actually make you happy, and that acquiring all these things may have alienated people, may have negatively impacted the planet. You know, you stop hanging out with people so that you could just focus on your orange desires, and you realize that, you know, just focusing on yourself, chasing material things, it's robbed you of your humanity, and focusing on yourself, it's pretty selfish. And your circle of concern begins to expand beyond just focusing on yourself. And that's a transformational dilemma of stage orange. And, you know, stage orange folk, this is where high achievers, you know, the people that we really look up to in this world are all really great at stage orange. But there's, like I said, the transformational dilemma, which then takes us into stage 6, the green stage. So in stage orange, you've acquired all the things that you want, not through force, but through meritocracy, through your hard work, and you realize it didn't make you happy. So you go back on focusing on the collective, less on yourself. And stage green is defined by relativistic thinking, being caring, being communal. So, you know, one of the things about the previous stage is like they were so focused on like material wealth and things of that. Stage green like begins to reject that. they look at stage orange as like, you're so shallow. You work on stage orange stuff. It's so material. You're so materialistic. Like, I'm more woke than you. And not only am I not focused on material acquisition, I want to help the underprivileged and marginalized. And unlike stage orange that thinks your country is better than any other country, or stage blue thinking your civilization is better than other civilizations, stage green is, I recognize all cultures and I embrace them. So you're much more inclusive in stage green. You want to help the underprivileged and marginalized. And like stage blue, you connect to something greater than yourself. But you don't connect to it in this dogmatic way, like I'm a Christian, or I'm a Buddhist, or I'm a Muslim. It's you're spiritual. You go to silent retreats, you practice yoga, you meditate, that type of stuff. Stage green. That's stage green. And you might be thinking, stage green sounds pretty good. What's bad about stage green? Well, stage green is highly idealistic, and it's so idealistic it becomes elitist in its thinking, meaning, why can't more people think like a woke green person like me? If more people were open-minded like me, the world would be a better place. And if you're not as open-minded as me, well, I'm gonna make you the enemy. So as you could see, just like stage 4, the blues, where maybe they were open to other religions, but they really believed their religion was the best, stage green is just playing the same game but at a higher level. So it's not dogmatic. They don't believe in a brand of religion, but they very much behave like all the other spiritual folks that they hang around with. And if you're not as open-minded as them, you become their enemy. And some examples of this would be like hippies, new agers, liberals. As I said, liberals tend to skew orange, green. Conservatives tend to skew red, orange. But let's not get it twisted. Both are very, very orange. And social workers, spiritual healers, woke people, and woke people, like the thing about stage green is that if you don't cultivate stage orange and you're in stage green, well, you don't really understand how society functions, how things actually get done. So you get these ideas like burning down institutions or canceling people is the right way to deal with society, versus really understanding that just causes more divisiveness. And if you really want to help create more unity, you probably wouldn't be into these things that are so divisive. And that's the problem with stage green and all tier 1 stages is every tier 1 stage, no matter if it's woke, if it's very black and white, all believe that if more people thought like them, the world would be a better place. And that's the transformational dilemma for stage green is, they can point out problems, but they have no solutions. They know what they like or they don't like, but they don't really know what they want. So there are these people that are like pretty hard to be around, always pointing out like the things that are problematic with the world, but have no idea on how to fix it. And even though they want to be inclusive, if you're not as inclusive as them, they're the enemy. So it's like this high level tricking your brain into thinking you're the ultimate good guy when you're in the green stage. And this is when you begin to lose yourself because you're trying to embrace everyone. And that brings us to the first tier 2 color, stage 7, yellow. So what happens in tier 2? Well, tier 2 is the first stage that you begin to realize, oh, there was a bunch of stages before stage 7. And you don't think of the stages as anything better or worse. It's just part of the continuum of life. And if you want to be stage yellow, you might not have to go through all the previous stages in that order, but you have to go through all those stages or you'll never get to yellow thinking. And what is yellow thinking? Well, life is very complex. There's many shades of gray. Absolute truth doesn't exist in stage yellow. A KKK guy, a MAGA guy, a snowflake, Antifa are all the same to stage yellow. Just people with certain belief systems. People are not good or bad, but yellow people see the world in systems. So you can recognize good and bad systems. So it's no longer like dehumanizing someone, but it's pointing out that systemically there are some issues here. And stage yellow can also hold paradoxes in their mind, like, oh, you could be wearing a MAGA hat and not be racist. Below stage yellow, like someone in stage green will just say, oh, if you wear a MAGA hat, you're racist. Or in a lower stage, they'll just say, if you're a liberal, you're a snowflake that hates guns. You know, it's very simple, black and white thinking. You can't hold paradoxes in your head. It breaks your head. It's a Control-Alt-Delete. If you can't hold paradoxes in your head, you're not a stage yellow. You know, that's a good indicator. Stage yellows don't get triggered by people with different ideologies. So if you're someone that always wants to like argue your stance and prove that you're right, you're not stage yellow. You might be thinking you're stage yellow. Most people, when they hear about this, probably think they're stage yellow, you know, in their minds, but they really behave in a lower stage. So in stage yellow, there's a high priority for competency and not rank. In all the previous stages, including orange and green, rank is very important. Oh, if you're the president of this, you're very important. If you're an entry-level worker, you're not as important. Stage yellow, everything is about competency, not about rank. And in stage yellow, you can see so many perspectives that you could offer solutions that work for people in that stage, not just solutions that work for you in stage yellow, because a solution in stage yellow won't work for green, a green solution won't work for orange, an orange solution won't work for blue. So in stage yellow, you understand that people are at different stages and you offer solutions that work for them. And if stage green was categorized by people being highly intellectual but never working in the real world and not having solutions, stage yellow learning is not intellectual learning. They learn about their knowledge through real world experience, which is more about embodiment versus intellectually knowing something. So a few examples are Evan Pagan. He's a teacher that teaches both rational and emotional concepts. Spiritual gurus, high-level philosophers, Mother Teresa, things of that nature. And so the transformational dilemma here is that yellow is really great at thinking and building mental models of everything. Unfortunately, all the deep thinking, all of the ability to hold paradoxes in their head, all the building of models actually don't solve world problems. But it gets us one step closer. And while all the previous tier 1 stages didn't want people to, or they weren't really looking forward to the transformational dilemma, they found it painful. Stage yellow actually looks forward to the transformational dilemma. They know that there's higher stages. They know that they're not the peak of consciousness. And then so there's one more stage after that, stage 8, the turquoise stage. This is where the rational, intuitive, and emotional all come together. You know, you have a taste of spirituality in a non-dogmatic, open-minded, and judgment-free way. So in this case, I would say that people of this spirituality are no longer, you know, going to yoga retreats, silent retreats. They don't pray to a specific religion. They just practice spirituality in their own way by connecting to spirit in their own way. And examples of this would be Jesus and Buddha. So these are the 8 stages of your psyche and how it develops. And one of the things that you should understand is that humans are dynamic. So we're not just one color. We're a combination of many colors. And each color can be applied to a different axis in your life. So financially, you may be a certain color. Spiritually, a certain color. Financially, did I say that okay? I said that already. Relationally, in a different color. You know, so these could be applied to so many different axes in your life. And once you have a better understanding of spiral dynamics, your understanding of the world instantly becomes more clear. All right, guys, I'll talk to you next week.